What if you were offered a full day's wage for an hour's work? What would you say to that? Say it's a pretty good deal, wouldn't you? Would you question why also some people that were working the full day were going to be paid the same amount as you? Would you question the unfairness of that? Well, I can guarantee you those who worked a full day and got the same amount as an hour laborer would definitely question that. But you're going to find a very interesting twist to this situation in today's fourth chapter of what I call Rapture Readiness, in which we examine the parable of the laborer. I'm Pastor Allen with Veritas Triumphant Church, and this is a very, very important and vital and encouraging message for us as pre-tribulation rapture believers, because it speaks directly to our time and what our role is in the last days church. Very encouraging indeed. The parable of the laborers actually is in the 20th chapter of Matthew, and it's an often overlooked parable because it's one of those mysterious ones that people can't always figure out. But first off, you see a man, a vineyard owner who is hiring people to work in his vineyard all day, and he pays people who work the full day. He makes an agreement with them to pay them a penny or a denarius for the whole day, and they agree to it. And so everything's fine. And as the day goes on, there's other people that jump in the work, and they're called in at certain times to do certain tasks in the day. And at the end of the day, in the last hour, he sees some people standing around, and he says, "Why are you standing idly by?" And he says, "Well, why aren't you working?" And of course, the implication is that these people are lazy, that they're just standing around chatting, smoking cigarettes or whatever, passing the time, and don't want to work. Somehow, these are lazy people. And then they tell him that nobody has given them any work to do. They haven't been offered any work. So he says, well, all right, work the last hour, go in and do whatever you can, and I'll pay you a penny for the last hour. And of course, the people that have worked a full day, they come in and say, "Why, we've worked a full day, and how come you're paying them the same?" And then they say, the Lord says, I've done you no wrong. You agreed with me to work for a denarius for a full day's work, and that's what I've done. And then he says at the end of it, many are called, but few are chosen. Now that's a very strange way to phrase this, because many are called, but few are chosen. How does that sounds more like a religious calling than a basic work assignment for a laboring man, doesn't it? And it's very very cleverly put in there, because actually in the symbolic meaning of this parable, the vineyard owner is the Lord, is Christ. And he's talking about the calling that is really important in his church. And so these people that have been working all day long, they may have been serving a function, but was it the most vital function? That's the question. I mean, they've done their day's work. Some people that were that were standing around, they weren't lazy. It wasn't like they were getting paid to do nothing. They like some government program, some COVID relief program or something where they pay you to stay home, something like that. Wasn't anything like that. They didn't have anything like that back then. And so they genuinely were standing there with services to offer and ready to jump in, and nobody called them. Nobody had anything for them to do. So the Lord, as Jesus here says, many are called, but few chosen. And this is what is so wonderful about this parable as regards us as pre-tribulation rapture believers, because we put our hope in the great hope of the church all along, which is the rapture, and others who do not accept the rapture or believe there's going to be a late tribulation rapture, they do not see the value of latter day work, shall we say. They don't see the real move of God that is going on behind the scenes, as we are aware of. We are given work to do that is extremely important, extremely crucial to seeing the world saved, to fulfilling the Great Commission. But others that are just going to church every day and maybe over a period of years, maybe they have positions in the church in big buildings where they get all staff get a good paid salary. And they, for many people, churches become a social club. And they're just going in and they join a committee and they get a pat on the back, and a building committee, or a replace the carpeting in the playroom committee, or something like this. In other words, they aren't really getting the kinds of missionary outreach programs that the church is supposed to be known for, because the first century church, as we all know, was very simple in many ways. It was people meeting in people's homes. They're going from village to village. They're testifying. They're casting out devils. They're baptizing people. They're doing a number of services that were absolutely crucial in getting the word and keeping the freshness of the word. And Jesus was very, very forceful in his warning that the church would fall into a very lax and conventional state in a short amount of time after the church was founded. That's why he said, ravening wolves will enter after I leave. And make sure to Peter, that you feed my sheep, feed my lambs, feed my sheep, he says over and over. Keep people fed, keep people moving on, people progressing. And we've had just centuries and centuries of periods of blindness and times where you couldn't read the Bible in your own language. Even you had everything. We had the papacy, and we had all the there was no Ephesians verse. By grace you are by faith you are saved through grace, not of your own. It is a gift of God, and that was all missing. And so here we are. We're kind of coming out of this, we've coming out of the missionary age of the church into what is now called the Laodicean age, which is the lukewarm church, where everything is dry and very, very much worldly and conventional, and there is no power, there's no vitality, life-changing preaching and teaching. Prophecy is ignored. Healing as a concept is ignored. There's none of those gifts. There's none of the vitality and the richness that was in the early church. So you look at the verses in Scripture and you say that none of that's here. What happened to it? Where did it go? And then you have theologians that say, "Oh, that was all left behind back then, and we don't recognize that now, and we don't try to bring that back. It has no more function for us." So this is the state of the church we're in right now. And so what Christ is saying here in chapter 20 of Matthew, in the parable of the laborers, is that it is not the number of hours you put into your job, it's not the time spent on the job, it is the quality of the work that you do, that you come around to doing. And when the prophet Joel talks about restoring the years that the cankerworm has eaten, this is what he means. He means getting it back in a hurry. And because Joel is most definitely a last day Battle of Armageddon teacher, and he talks about all all the things that have happened and all the wasted years that we've had to endure with just going around in circles, sort of like the Israelites in the desert, just going around in circles, not having anything of real consequence and in order to give to the Lord. But now the time has come, Christ says in this parable, that many are called or few are chosen, and that is about the last thing he mentions before he makes the trek to Jerusalem for the Passover and to be crucified. So this is an incredible gift for us as pre-tribulation rapture believers to know this and to hold on to this, because all the other verses regarding the rapture talk about it as being the greatest event the church will ever see, and as I have said before, the time where every problem that suffering people have will be removed, because we need greater numbers, and the problems of this world are just so staggering and monumental. There's no way we can address them all, but in the rapture, everybody is delivered, and only those who are spiritually dead or rebellious or corrupt and depraved, only those will be left. And we should be absolutely delighted that this situation exists for us. This is something to celebrate, really. We have to really rejoice in this fact, because there's all sorts of stories in the Bible that talk about who's going to be first in the kingdom. The one where the disciples come to Jesus and says, "Who will be first in the kingdom?" And he says, "Whoever is servant of all will be first." And they're trying to muscle their way in the top position. And there's there's all kinds of other things. There's the prodigal son, and that story, it sort of hints of this a little bit, when the good son says, I've been faithful to you all this time, Lord, and how come you have a big party for the wayward son, for the one who went out and spent all his substance in riotous living and waste? And he says, "My son, everything I have is yours. You're always with me. I don't have to worry about you. But I have to worry about those who have fallen away or who have gone off and been led astray." And we as rapture believers are here to quicken the spirits of those people, to re-anoint them or bring them in the true gospel sense, convert their minds, hearts, and souls, that they will enter the kingdom as a true believer, as a first century Christian type believer. They'll have the real story, and you'll see mission work continue in countries where the message has not been received yet, in Indonesia and Asia and Africa and places like this, where the Great Commission has to be finally settled, and this is what we're to be a part of right now. So it is a glorious time. Those people were not standing idly by. They were not goofing around. They were waiting to be served. Waiting to serve in the true capacity that God gave them. And it's also a little bit like the paralytic man who's sitting by the pool of Bethesda, who said, "Lord, everybody gets down before me when the water is stirred, and I can't get in." And he said, "Would you be healed?" He said, "Is this what you really want? Is that what you want me to do for you, to totally heal you?" Because some people, they say that they want the real thing, but they're not always committed, or they're not willing to pay the price. So that's sort of the underlying story behind that episode. But we've got a great opportunity here the parable of the laborers. And just remember, it's not the length of time served, it's the quality of the work given and the value of the work given. So go forth and study prophecy, study knowledge, seek knowledge and wisdom with all your might. You will have doors open to you and hidden manna from heaven that is not reserved or not given to others. It's certainly not to the lukewarm church, the church that Christ will spew out of his mouth. Rather go out of that church to seek gold tried in the fire, refined, perfected. Those are the ones that Christ is looking for now. And it is a great gift. And it's time for us as true believers to carry out this mission. Pastor Allen with Veritas Triumphant Church, and just want to let you know we're going to have more videos on the rapture readiness coming up. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, Veritas Triumphant Church on YouTube, VeritasTriumphant.com, that's the website, and Pastor Gordon Allen, Pastor Allen on YouTube, Facebook. And we also have our old Facebook one is still active. That's Allen Veritas Church at PhiladelphiaVictory.com. Until next time, God bless you. Well, till I see you again.